Here in Ontario, we are gearing up for a provincial election, and one of the would-be candidates is going to be Doug Ford. Doug Ford is the brother of Toronto's infamous Mayor Rob Ford. And like Rob Ford, he's kind of Trump-light. You know, he's bombastic and self-centered and very, very conservative, or at least he's running on a conservative platform. And so one of his proposed changes is that he wants to repeal our current sex ed curriculum. By the way, it's not a sex ed curriculum, it's the health and phys ed curriculum, but there is a sexual development component. Anyway, that we have a curriculum that was implemented in 2015 here in Ontario, and it's an update. It was a much needed update because the previous curriculum was from 1998. So, you know, it predated things like, you know, cell phones. It predated the internet. There were, you know, certain significant topics in there that were not covered. Okay, so yes, so the curriculum has been in place for 2.5 years at this point, and it's been fine. It's a comprehensive curriculum. It doesn't cover everything, but it covers a lot. It's really great. Anyway, Doug Ford wants to repeal this because he says that he feels that parents were not adequately consulted, and he wants parents to be able to have a say in how their children are taught sex ed. So, you know, I have talked about this issue a lot. I spoke about it a lot in the media when the curriculum was first implemented, and, you know, there was some pushback and concern from the public. And so now the topic has resurfaced, and I find myself talking about it a lot again. So I don't want to rehash a lot of the points that I have been making in the media because they're easily accessible. But I want to talk about a couple of things that I haven't really mentioned in my sort of more formal interviews and stuff. So one of them is that I feel that this is really a false debate, this idea of should it be sex ed in school or should it be sex ed at home? I did a video on this, and I'll link to it in the little I thing. But yeah, it doesn't have to be either or. You can have sex ed in school and you can have sex ed at home. You can speak about your values at home. You can teach your kids, you know, whatever you want to teach them about sexuality at home. And just because they're learning about it in school, that doesn't prevent you from saying what you want to say at home. I am also going to say that I think that there are people, when they say that they want to be able to take charge of this education at home, what they're really expressing is that there are things that they do not want to tell their children, and there are things that they do not want their children to know. And I think that's really unfortunate because most of what is being taught in school is information that will help children, A, understand their bodies, and B, learn how to navigate their sexuality both on their own and when they get older with partners. And that's important information to have, you know. Knowing how to, you know, reduce your risk of STIs is important. Knowing how to reduce your risk of pregnancy is important. Knowing how to navigate consent is important. You know, understanding that there are people with different identities in the world and they all deserve to be treated with respect. All of that is important, and it's all things kids need to know to be able to, you know, operate in the world and be socially conscious and aware, and also just to have, you know, good, healthy relationships and maintain good personal health. So, you know, there may be parents who are like, I don't want to teach my kid about that, but your kid needs to know that. Your kid deserves to have that information so they can make informed decisions throughout their lives and also understand what's going on with their own bodies. It's their bodies, you know? And finally, the last thing that there's two more things. I also think that when, you know, parents or families talk about, you know, how they want to teach their own kids about sexuality, which again, I am all for. I also think that that is a largely selfish perspective on the curriculum because, like, absolutely, if you want to take this on in your home, I applaud you, you should do that, but this isn't only about you and your child. Public education is about every child in this province, and not every child has a parent who is going to teach them about sexuality, and they still deserve to have the information. Not every child in this province as a parent, there are children who are, wards of the province. There are children in foster care who are not getting that education at home. There are children who live in, neglectful or abusive homes. And then there are a lot of kids who live in perfectly loving homes who just have parents who either don't have the knowledge or don't have the time to take on this very important topic. So it's not just about you and your family, it's about every family and what every child needs and deserves to know. And then my last point is that I hear a lot of people talking about values, and they don't want the schools teaching their children certain values. And I have heard other people argue that, they're not teaching values in school, and I don't agree with that. We always teach values in school, even when we're talking about sort of the non-social subjects, like the hard sciences and math. A lot of that is still taught within a social context. So of course, broad social values are going to come into play there. And so, okay, for example, I think when most people say they're teaching my kids values that I don't agree with, it's things like in school, we are acknowledging the existence of people who are gay, people who are trans or have different gender identities, who identify outside the gender binary. Those seem to be the two issues that really get people's backs up. And what I will say to that is, yes, that is a value. The idea that people who are queer deserve to be acknowledged and treated with respect in our culture the same way that cisgender or heterosexual people are treated is a social value. And so, yes, what that means is that if you as a parent disagree with that and you hold different values, then you need to have those conversations with your kids and say, you may have learned this in school, but we feel differently. I feel differently. And if that's a conversation that you don't want to have with your kid, then I invite you to think about why that is. Why don't you want to say that to your child? Because if it's a value and it's important to you, you can talk about that. The school is not preventing you from talking about that. If your child learns something in school that runs counter to your family's values, you are allowed to say to your child, we don't believe that. And so if you don't want to have to say that to your kid, think about why that is. Anyway, I'm super frustrated that Doug Ford is trying to make this an issue again, largely because I don't even think that he personally has a problem with it. I think he is just using this as a way to, get people riled up and worked up again because there was so much passion and concern about it in 2015. I don't think he personally cares about the sexual health or sex education of Ontario's youth at all. So I'm going to be talking about this a lot, during the course of the election. If he keeps pushing it, I'm going to keep pushing back, and I'm going to do what I can. But yeah, comprehensive sex education has been proven time and again to be beneficial to youth, not detrimental. So yeah, that is my VEDA rant for today. Let me know in the comments what you think about this issue. Okay, I will see you tomorrow. Bye.